Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Get Equipped podcast. You may notice that we have changed our title since the first episode. Before we actually decided on the title, we had actually already recorded the episode. So just editor's note: this is the Get Equipped Pod Show, not Proto Stare Pod Show anymore.
It's
it is
better
much
now.
better now. So anyway, yeah, my name's Cody, and as always, I am joined by Cass. How you doing, Cass?
I'm good. Been getting more sleep lately.
Me too, but not in the way that I would want to. it's not great. It's not great, but yeah, it's good. You know, we're at the end of another week.
Thank God.
Yeah, I've been stuck at home. We missed recording last week because I came down with COVID after our first episode. Those two events are not related.
Wah,
Yeah,
wah.
pretty much. I've been stuck at home all week, just with the family. We've been playing lots of board games, watching lots of movies. We just watched Godzilla King of the Monsters last night. That was a good time.
Yeah, it's got Charles Dance and Ghidorah in it. So, what more can you ask
my two
for?
favorite actors.
My two favorite villains.
Yeah, I sat there. I couldn't figure out who Charles Dance was for the longest time. But my wife recognized him from Game of Thrones and what's her show? The Crown. She watches The Crown a lot.
Oh, he would be in that
He's
show.
in 2 seasons of that show.
Of course.
So
The man was born regal.
yeah, he really was. But yeah, so last episode we got started on our topic of again, sorry, y'all are just gonna have to deal with me coughing for a little bit here and there. We were talking about games that kind of shaped us as we've gone through our lives, so last episode we got up to the PS 360 Wii era, and so we're gonna kick it off there tonight. And Cass, once again, I'll let you go ahead and lead us off. What you got?
Cool. The game that I chose is also my favorite game ever. Fallout New Vegas.
That's what, yeah.
And
Please tell me all about it, because I love listening to you talk about this game.
okay, so Fallout New Vegas came out, I think, in 2011, and I had already played Fallout 3 up to that point, and I loved that game up until I played New Vegas. Now I can never go back to it, and I don't think I can go forward either because New Vegas is just so good. It's partially because Obsidian has some of the best writers in the entire industry, and the quests can be super complex. It's got a better sense of the lore of the entire series, and the sense of humor is amazing too. I could go on and on about all the things I love about the game.
Yeah.
The companions are great. They improved the shooting somewhat.
Yeah, that's one thing that prevented me, because I played a little bit of Fallout 3, and the shooting mechanics always kind of felt weird to me. It's really hard to explain.
Oh,
yeah.
well, I know why. It's because the iron sights don't work in Fallout.
Oh, okay. All right, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you're looking down the sights, it doesn't actually work the way it's supposed to.
Gotcha. Yeah, so yeah, I've got very limited experience with this game, and I actually tried to play it. I haven't tried to play it since I got my new PC, which is much more apt to play video games. I went from
especially from 2011.
Yeah. So my situation was I used to run it's funny because I actually used to play Skyrim, and I looked it up here on Google. It was October 19th, 2010 is when New Vegas came out. So just just
2010,
barely
right.
shy of 2011. But I was able to play Skyrim really well. But I also think that you can run Skyrim on a toaster. Well, you actually can run Skyrim on a on a refrigerator these days. So I guess that's really not far off from the truth. But yeah, but anytime that I went and tried to play New Vegas, the game would basically melt. And I was so sad because I always wanted to like sit down and play through it because you always spoke so highly of it, but I just never got a chance to.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things about the game is something that I think that Skyrim does incredibly wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot that Skyrim does wrong,
There is a sort of Civil War plot line.
but
I mean, not quite. Like, they're two nations at war, not the same
Yeah.
nation at war. Anyway, but not only does it have a third option, but it has a fourth option, and you can play that pretty much any way you want. You've got the NCR, who are your big liberal American army, who are there to, spread democracy and taxes. You got Caesar's Legion, who are the big fascist group who just want to make everybody slaves and use military might. You got Mr. House, the autocrat, who hides behind a computer screen and controls an army of robots.
Okay, wow.
And then your fourth option is to go your own way and basically choose an independent faction for New Vegas.
Do you get to start your own faction on that route, or is that a...
Not quite.
Okay.
There's an NPC that will help you get through the end of the game, and you can basically choose which factions you want to work with, which ones you want to ignore, and which ones you want to destroy. And there's no wrong answer.
Gotcha. So here's kind of my question as far as like this campaign goes. Is there a right and a wrong answer on any of these factions?
No.
That's actually great. Like being able to pull that off and like not have a right or wrong answer, like that's good writing, and to like really feel that there's not a right or wrong answer, like that gives it a lot of replayability.
Yeah, and it helps that during the ending, like it shows you miniature endings for every faction and pretty much every town that you went through and helped in the entire game. And also all your companions that you met, depending on whether or not you completed their subquest or did certain things during their subquest. It changes all of that in the ending.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, have you played the new one from Obsidian? What is it, Outer Worlds?
Yeah, I liked Outer Worlds. It's nowhere near as good, but it's a much smaller scale game, so I wasn't expecting it to be that
as quite as in depth. Yeah,
still some good writing though.
That's really cool. Yeah, Outer Worlds is one that's been on my radar, and now that I've got time, I've been spending a lot of time at home catching up on my backlog, and I think I've actually got New Vegas on my backlog. I want to give it a try and really see if it clicks with me again, because like I say, last time that I tried to play it, it just melted.
Yeah, well, the game was kind of notorious around the time it came out for being like riddled with bugs.
Yeah, and
I originally played it on the 360, and I think the first time I played, I encountered an enemy that I couldn't kill.
Oh, nice.
But it could kill me.
Don't fight this thing. Yeah. Well, this was also back on the days of the Gamebryo engine, right?
Buddy, we're still in the Gamebryo engine.
Yeah, that's right. I will bet money that Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be running on Gamebryo.
Well, I've heard that Starfield is sort of running on that same sort of engine too, if the rumors are correct. Geez. But I don't know about that.
Yeah.
If it's not, then I would have expect the new Elder Scrolls to be running on the Starfield engine, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, Starfield. Is that going to be another open world one from Bethesda or no?
We have no idea. At least I
haven't looked into it in a long time.
They haven't shown it.
Yeah,
basically at all.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, so I mean, it's funny because the game that I picked from this generation is also from Bethesda, and it's another one of those open world choose your own adventure RPGs. This is actually one that you got me, so this is your fault, and it is Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Now there's a lot of reasons to love this game. Some legitimate, some not. You can.
For one, it's hilarious.
Is incredibly funny. Watching, I mean, back in 2010 10 when I first played this game, because I think you and your sister got it for me for Christmas one year, and
Yeah, we got you the game of the year.
The game of the year edition with the two DLC expansion.
Knights of the Nine and Shivering Isles.
Shivering Isles is fantastic, and I like Knights of the Nine as well, but that's not quite as a big expansion. But yeah, like this game. So this game actually started kind of a trend with me. This was when my mental health started to take kind of a toll here and there, and Elder Scrolls games have always been kind of like a really comforting, I'm going to go here, and this like helps me kind of cope. And so far, Oblivion and Skyrim are the two games that really have helped with that. I think I've probably put more time into Skyrim because controller support for Oblivion on PC isn't there, and I always prefer to play on controller when I can. So I... oh my goodness. Sorry, talking a lot. It's hard. But yeah, like going into these worlds and going around and doing all these adventures and everything, it's really, really therapeutic for me. And that's something that I've always really appreciated with Oblivion. Could I consider Oblivion a good game? I think I can. But it's probably my favorite from the generation. It's what's kind of helped me the most. I actually like a lot about the gameplay. I thought it hit a good balance between like the depth of a nice deep fulfilling, mechanically fulfilling RPG with some caveats here and there, and the casual accessibility, which was what Skyrim kind of skewed further towards, which it lost some of that depth in the process. But yeah, I adore Oblivion. And like I finally found a mod that will allow me to play the game with an Xbox controller just natively. So I'm excited to try that mod out when I actually get a chance. Still trying to work on new games first, but I want to go back to Oblivion here shortly.
Right. I just have a couple of things to say about Oblivion. For one, Oblivion, it may have been the first game to start a horrible trend in gaming with the Horse Armor DLC.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, I forgot about the Horse Armor DLC.
It seemed like the biggest deal at the time, but now that sort of thing is in almost every game now.
I mean, there's a lot of games that just like they have a business model based off that. I would consider like
even Smash basically has horse armor.
Oh yeah,
now.
it's all the Mii costumes. Like, I mean, that's Fortnite's entire business model. Because like nothing in Fortnite, nothing that you buy in Fortnite has any effect on gameplay whatsoever.
Oh no, they're all skins.
It's all skins. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm a very casual Fortnite player. Those Ryu and Chun-Li skins were tempting. Like, the Master Chief one was kind of tempting. But the Ryu and Chun-Li skins were tempting.
If I played the game, I would probably be tempted to get that Ripley costume.
Yes, that's a really cool one. Like, they just kind of went nuts with the crossovers this season.
It's kind of ridiculous.
But yeah, no, I absolutely see where you're coming from with the Horse Armor DLC. And like, I keep forgetting that that's even DLC because that's part of the game that I've never actually played. Because when I was gifted the game on Steam via the Game of the Year edition as well, so it's the same version of the game that I had on 360, but you actually can't buy the individual DLCs, like the little DLCs, like the Wizard's Tower, the Mehrunes Dagon's Dagger quest line. I don't think you can.
Aren't they just in the game?
No, you have to have the deluxe edition. Yeah, there's a Game of the Year edition, then there's a deluxe edition that's got all that stuff. And since I've only ever gotten the Game of the Year edition, I've never actually played that content of the game. So
Well, none of that content is good anyway,
yeah.
So
yeah, so yeah, it's like Oblivion's got a lot of good quest lines though. Like the whole Hactor quest line, like I remember being just immensely creeped out by it. With the way that everything played out in that one, and the fact that you never see what all the townspeople were worshipping, and then the whodunit quest line where like it's a murder mystery, but you're the murderer, So you've got to figure out how to off everybody in the mansion without getting busted. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That one's really good. The whole Dark Brotherhood quest line is great.
Yeah, pour one out for Lucian LeChance.
I don't think I will. Guy's a murderer.
Oh yeah, but he's family.
I think my favorite quest is probably the one where you go inside the painting.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Where you go and you find the dude in the painting. That's a good one.
Or the Fighters Guild quest, where it's like an inversion of the previous Fighter Guild quests, like from other Elder Scrolls games, where you have to save this lady's rats.
Yeah.
And they're being attacked by mountain lions in her basement.
Yeah, there's a lot of goofiness in that game as far as quest lines go, but that's kind of the charm of it, like, and just the way that all these characters react and everything. Like, if you're
by Azura,
by Azura, it's the grand. I love stuff like that. And the weird, corny zoom in on all, whenever you go and talk to somebody. Like, all the dialogue, the fact that the entire game is voiced by, like, 6 people. And then Patrick Stewart and, oh, God, what is his name? The guy who plays Martin, who dies all the time.
Which character did you say?
Sean Bean. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Sean Bean, right.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole game was voiced by, like, 6 people, and then, like, Patrick Stewart and Sean Bean. Like, that's... it's so silly to me, but it's like I said, it's got its own charm to it.
Yeah, I think Linda Carter is in there for the Nord women.
Yeah, the Nord women and the Orc women.
Yeah, she's great.
Linda Carter's in there. But yeah, did you have anything else to say on Oblivion?
I saw a mud crab the other day.
You did see a mud crab the other day. Yeah, all right. So I guess we're gonna move on to the next generation, which is going to be PS4, Xbox One, and then like I've lumped my game is on these, but it's not what I played them on. So the last generation. We've got the new generation with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X now upon us. So I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
This is for the PS4 Xbone era. Okay, yeah, my choice is Bloodborne.
I knew it.
And, it's super obvious for me. And if New Vegas hadn't existed in the last gen, my pick would have been Dark Souls for that one.
Yeah, because you're a big FromSoft fan, right?
I'm a pretty big FromSoft fan. I've been playing their games since Armored Core on the PS1.
Oh, wow, that goes way back.
The first one.
Yeah, that goes way back.
Yeah. But, man, I love Bloodborne. It's basically everything that I would have wanted out of the Souls series before I even played the Souls series, because it was my first entry.
Yeah, I really like the aesthetic. I love that, dark, creepy, like, gothic, monstery aesthetic that they've got going on.
Oh, yeah. And it definitely starts gothic Victorian. But it ends up in a different place, which I guess I shouldn't spoil. But it doesn't go the way you think it will when you're first hunting werewolf-like monsters.
Okay.
And God, another thing I love about the game is that as opposed to other games in the Soul series where you're encouraged to try out different weapons and keep equipping different ones over the course of the game, Bloodborne wants you to invest in one weapon that you really love, and you make your entire playstyle out of that weapon.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm fond of a lot of them. I particularly love the Blades of Mercy, the dual daggers.
Okay.
And the I think it's called the Whirligig Saw. Everybody in the fandom calls it the Pizza Cutter, though.
Gee, I wonder what that weapon looks like.
Well, that describes it pretty well. Imagine if a pizza cutter was a chainsaw.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Yeah, Bloodborne...
Yeah. And it shreds enemies just like that, too.
That's awesome. Yeah, Bloodborne is like... That's on my radar. And I'm sitting here, I've been kind of holding out for a PC release because typically when it comes... Like, we only have enough money to really, like, get one one console per gen, and I typically go with Nintendo hardware, but this year this generation we've actually gotten a gaming PC as well. We've actually got 2 of them now that my wife has hers, but so like I'm kind of holding out for the a PC, this big, long rumored PC release. I don't know that it's going to happen, so I'm just going to have to get a PS4.
Really hope it happens.
Yeah, I hope it happens too, because that game runs 20 FPS or 30 FPS.
It's close to 30 FPS, but there are frame dips every now and then, and it's got a frame pacing issue that makes some people sick playing it. I've never really had a problem with it, but it's definitely there.
Gotcha.
Apparently, a lot of the animations in the game are programmed to work at 60 FPS.
Okay.
So
in theory, you could probably even get a PS5 upgrade if they ever decided to patch that in.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is like they're either waiting for a new release of Bloodborne, or FromSoft just doesn't want to deal with it anymore.
Oh,
because at the end of the day, they're the ones that still have to do all the work. Sony can just tell them that they want it.
Definitely understand. Yeah, I understand that. Here's hoping, because I'd definitely love to see that game running at higher resolutions and higher frame rates.
If it releases on PC, I will buy it again, and I will spend another ungodly amount of hours. Running Chalice dungeons and trolling people.
Yeah, I'll definitely be checking it out if it comes to PC. Because switching over from purely Nintendo hardware to having Nintendo hardware and then a PC to go with it is like insane to me. So because I have this huge library of games, that just run at these ungodly resolutions and frame rates. So I'm just like, yes, everything, please put it on PC. Optimize it, please put it on PC. Thank you.
Everything should be on PC.
Yeah. So, I really want to check out Bloodborne. It aesthetically, from what I've seen, I haven't seen a ton of the game, but it reminds me a lot of like what I would like a 3D Castlevania game to look like. And
it's kind of got those elements to it.
So like those vibes, I'm just like, FromSoft, could you just make me a Castlevania game? Can we do that, please? Be a great way to bring in the difficulty and just look cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. There are so many things to talk about with that game, but it's a FromSoft game, so the biggest one is probably boss fights, and you get some of the hugest boss fights in the entire series in that game regularly.
And that series is known like, I'm unfamiliar with the Dark Souls series, like the Soul series as a whole, and a lot of FromSoft's games, because they're already known for big boss fights, aren't they?
Usually in every game there are at least a few giant boss fights. They get even bigger in this. But that doesn't mean that the interpersonal fights with human-sized enemies aren't just as good, if not better.
Yeah, because a lot of strategy involved.
They really test your skill.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's a very, very skill-intensive game that takes a long time to really understand the mechanics and get good at the game. But it's really rewarding when you do get good at the game, just for a whole variety of reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely. I'm definitely intending on checking that out when I can. So for the game that I've picked, it's actually a 2019 release, and it's not a series that I was unfamiliar with from before, but it's one that I had trouble getting into. And this one is the Resident Evil 2 remake. I adore this game, and the remake really allowed me to just fall in love with the Resident Evil series as a whole. Because I've always had trouble getting immersed into the worlds of the original tank controlled Resident Evil games, or the top down tank controlled, the fixed camera angles. Even though I think they're very good games, I think the first game is a really good game, I have such a hard time getting into it, even using the new alternate control method. And I couldn't even begin to tell you why. So when I heard that they were working on an over-the-shoulder style remake for Resident Evil 2, I got really excited because I was familiar with RE4, pretty intimately before, but that was about the extent of it. And then I started, once that got announced, I started playing some of the other Resident Evil games. I played through both the Revelations games when they came out on Switch, and finally, when it came out, I got to sit down and play through Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I've never had a game scare me the way that game did. And I just got sucked into the world, into the characters, and I really grew to love the scary side of it, and then also the goofiness of Resident Evil. I've had people complain to me. They're like, "Oh, some of the Resident Evil games get really, really silly," and I'm like, "It's kind of why I love it."
That's the point.
The
point's not the scary.
Yeah, it's not. I always the back half of every single Resident Evil game, and Resident Evil 2 is no different. It gets really, really silly, but it's a lot of fun. It's a very fun kind of silly. It's a very satisfying kind of silly. Just the whole, especially the back half of 2 when you're dealing with the sewers and then the area after sewers. But Leon's introduction to the sewers in that game, that's the hard line, telling you, okay, we're kind of done trying to creep you out. We're done with done with that part of the game.
Right. I'll tell you what is scary about Resident Evil 2.
What's that?
It's trying to get an S+ rank and doing your speed run over and over and over again, and trying so hard not to walk into a liquor when you're in the laboratory.
Yeah, liquors are that's a very intense moment of the game, but then you eventually learn to deal with them, because with me, that was my first real introduction to RE2, because I was familiar with the story before through the Wii light gun game Dark Side Chronicles, which is a full light gun style remake of Resident Evil 2. And actually, I would really like to talk about that game at some point, because that game does one thing that is a really interesting take on RE2, and that's keeping Leon and Claire together through the entire adventure and merging the campaigns. I think that's a really neat way to look at Resident Evil 2. But given that was my, only real exposure to RE2, you can't exactly sneak around the liquors in that game. Because you have no control over where you're going. You can't stay silent while you're doing that. The game doesn't let you. So I had no idea that they can't hear anything. They can't see anything. So when I finally figured that out, I was like, oh, okay, I can deal with this. And I love how, just as soon as you get comfortable, the game decides to throw Mr. X at you, and the sound design on that game is so good when you're playing through it with headphones on and you can hear him stomping around. And I remember during my first playthrough, I was going through a hallway in the RPD trying to avoid him, and he didn't know where I was, but I was walking very slowly to get past liquors, and then I hear the door swing open. And it was just chaotic from there.
In fact, I don't recommend that you play it without headphones.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The sound design on that game is so leaps and bounds better than anything else that I had played. I remember being offended at the Game Awards that year when Resident Evil 2 lost to Call of Duty in the sound design department. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, no, that was
terrible. There's absolutely no way that you actually played through this game and you're going to tell me it's got worse sound design than anything else that came out this year. I understand, personal taste and all, but the way that they set everything up, the moans of the zombies, the shuffles of everything, the isolated feel of it, the lack of music in a lot of areas, and then the music that does pop up is very, very fitting. The save room is very nice, very fitting. But man, what a game. what a game! And that was like my first introduction to that that generation of gaming. And it was really nice, and it felt quite at home because I ended up playing through it with my Switch controller, which was that's a very good feeling controller for RE2. Let me tell you. Yeah, I could gush about this game forever.
Yeah, I mean, that is the second game that I ever got a platinum for on the PS4, and of course the first one was Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
So I've put in the time on that one.
Absolutely.
Got S+ ranking, both characters.
Now do it again on PC in 60 frames per second.
Oh, it would be a lot easier. I can knife so fast.
See, I've still never touched hardcore mode. Even after all this thing.
Oh, you got to do it on hardcore.
Yeah, that's what I've thought about doing. I thought about starting another playthrough in a hardcore mode. I actually since we've been quarantined at home, we've started doing reading time. With my wife has got a book she's reading, and then our girls, they have books that they're reading. Just to kind of help make sure everything's going well. And I didn't really have anything to read. So I ended up ordering the novelization of Resident Evil 2. Yeah,
oh, no.
by
I read
S.D.
that.
Perry.
S.D. Perry.
Yeah, I mean I've read the first one. That's an interesting adaptation so far.
It's very goofy.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm expecting. So I'm reading some of this. I'm like, that's really silly, but that's fine. But I think what's funny to me about it is how it just does not fit into the continuity, because from my understanding, as these novels were coming out, the author S.D. Perry did not know what Capcom was doing with these characters in the future. So the entire opening prologue of the Resident Evil 2 novelization, which is titled City of the Dead, involves Jill packing her stuff to going and getting in the car to go to the airport with Chris. And if you know how Resident Evil 3 goes, it doesn't exactly go down like that.
Oh, the retcon that he has to do for the next book is very fun.
I think S.D. Perry is a woman, if I recall correctly.
Really?
I believe so.
My apologies. The retconning she has.
Yeah. S.D. Perry is a woman. Stephanie Perry. Stephanie Danielle Perry.
Either way, I think the most hilarious thing is stuff that probably Capcom didn't even know about, at the time, like the Wesker stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Capcom, so Wesker you can kind of hand wave out of the way, and I don't think Wesker comes back in until Code Veronica anyway, so, in the way, because I've read the first one as well, the adaptation of Resident Evil 1, and that one actually was not a bad read. You added some stuff in there that I was just like, I don't know about this.
I kind of like her addition of Jill's dad being an expert thief. Something.
Jill's dad, I think his name is Dick Valentine, is
what a great name.
It's fantastic. He's a thief, and he taught Jill how to lockpick, and I was like, that's just my headcanon now. I know in main canon she's former military, and I get it, but I kind of like that backstory. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that. And she spends a couple of chapters at the beginning of the first book talking about actually spending time in the STARS office with Chief Irons, talking to the STARS and talking to Wesker, and you really get to see how everything operated and see how Irons is just kind of a dickhead. So I thought that was it's just a little bit of a douche, and I appreciated that because I thought it added nice pacing to the beginning of the story. But it's also probably one of the closer versions to the canon ending of Resident Evil 1 that we're ever going to get. Because as it stands, there is no canon ending to Resident Evil 1 in game form. Not even the Umbrella Chronicles, which takes Chris and Jill's campaign and combines it as the canon version of the ending, because it just omits Barry Burton completely. Barry
and Rebecca both survive.
Barry, Rebecca, Chris, and Jill all survive.
And Brad, I guess, but not for long.
Yeah. Which I appreciated what they did with Brad in the Resident Evil 3 remake too, but that's another discussion for another time.
I don't.
I do. He went out. He died not as, trying to redeem himself a little bit, and just not like, he didn't go out like a total bitch, to like put it bluntly.
No, I love that.
Oh, you just...
I love him being such a wiener.
I mean, he does have that nickname for a reason.
Yeah.
So definitely, Resident Evil 2 remake. Went a little bit off topic there. So here at the end of the episode, we kind of talked about it, and we're kind of considering the Switch to be kind of a half generational game, because it really and truly is. It's not really, current gen, but it's not really last gen either. And we were both kind of like, well, there's really only one game you can pick. I mean,
there are technically a few good games.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we're gonna spend a few minutes to talk about Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild, I just want to say, like, real quick, this was the first game in years that made me feel that childlike wonder that I got when I was playing games growing up. When I played through stuff like Chrono Trigger and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Banjo-Kazooie, I hadn't felt that in so long. And this was the first game in years that literally gave me that feeling back.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about it in the last episode, but it takes such inspiration from the original Zelda.
Yeah, it takes...
where it gives you the open world, but it supercharges it.
Yeah. Yeah, they take all the best ideas from that game and just run with them.
People are still finding stuff in that game.
Yeah, it's... Breath of the Wild is such a vast game where, is the amount of stuff to do and stuff to find is just endless, and there is so much depth to the combat system that I am constantly impressed by what I see people doing in that game. It's nuts. But, like, it's not a perfect game. There's definitely criticisms to be had about the story and the dialogue and the voice acting and all that stuff, but just as an experience, I think everybody should sit down and really give Breath of the Wild a go. Especially if you like stuff that is open world and like interesting worlds, because there's a lot to do in that game. There's a lot to do.
And stop whining about the weapons.
Yeah. The more I thought about it, I know a lot of people are like, the weapons, drives me crazy, but I'm like, yeah, but it forces you to play a little bit, more outside of the box. It's something that I appreciated. And, I mean, it's not like once you know what you're doing, it's not like the game ever shorts you weapons. I mean, yeah.
No, you can always find weapons.
Yeah, I mean, and if you...
The game goes out of its way to give you weapons.
Yeah, and, if you really want some, like, high-level stuff, you know where to go right off the bat. Just, boom, right off the bat, I know exactly where to go to get all this.
Yeah. It's the place that you can go from the very beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. Not that it's recommended that you do that, but...
yeah, you are in for the fight of your life if you go there.
Unless you're a speedrunner.
Yeah, which speedruns of that game, I haven't watched them in a little while, but I really need to see what times that they're clocking now, because I remember when the game first came out, like in 2017, they were hitting like 40 minutes within the first couple of months. Like you would have had it.
It's way shorter than that.
Yeah,
now.
like we're at just about 40 minutes. Recording this podcast right now, people probably have already cleared the game, which is crazy.
Yeah,
sure. That's just the open-ended nature of it. And I was listening to a friend of mine's podcast like a few weeks ago. Quick shout out to Nintendo Jump podcast, and they were doing a music episode on Zelda, and Daryl, one of their hosts and a good friend of mine, he brought up a point that I had never really thought about, and he argued that Breath of the Wild had the best soundtrack in the series. Which a lot of people don't really know Breath of the Wild for its soundtrack. But when they played through stuff like the Tarrytown theme, you start to like really click like, oh, these melodies are actually like really, really good when you listen to them in isolation. Just the way that they're designed to kind of hang back in the background. You don't notice them quite as much when you're playing the game, but when you listen to them in isolation, it's kind of crazy. Like the Shrine theme is a remix of the original Zelda's like dungeon theme, which is kind of nuts, and it works out really well. And when you listen to it in isolation, it's really good. So
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic soundtrack. I would be hesitant to say that it's the best one,
I
but
agree
I
with you.
also couldn't offer up a competitor at the
Oh,
moment. I think that there are so many good soundtracks in the series; it's hard to
yeah,
choose.
I think my favorite soundtrack is probably still Majora's Mask. But Breath of the Wild has, yeah, it's got a lot of really good stuff. And
I really like Wind
yeah,
Waker.
Wind Waker has a lot of gorgeous music. And I mean, I can listen to the credits theme from Wind Waker at any point in time, and it'll just put a smile on my face. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, and one thing, like, in Breath of the Wild, like, in regards to its story, like, I thought it was fine with what they did with it, because, I mean, really and truly, it's not, like, any deeper or any more shallow than most stories that you're going to find in other Zelda games. Like, it's really not that much, that much more shallow than something from, like, Ocarina of Time or Link to the Past. Because,
yeah,
oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
yeah. I think that it's not really supposed to be a big story
No.
game. I feel like they tried to make it take as much of a backseat as possible while still giving you like an impetus to do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because the world is the story.
Yeah, yeah, it's you've got a lot of those games. I mean, you've got a lot of those games, stuff like Metroid Prime, and I think I recall hearing that Bloodborne was kind of like this, and the whole Soulsborne series is like this to a point where a lot of the story is out in the world, and you find
Yeah.
you find everything out and about in there. And it really is, and it's really cool because I don't think you've played Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity yet, have you?
No.
So you should give that a go at some point because it's really interesting to see a lot of these places. So just quick spoiler warning: I am going to talk a little bit of spoilers about Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity, but very very light stuff. But it's really interesting to like go to in Breath of the Wild, go to somewhere like the Akala Citadel, and kind of envision okay, well, this looks like where the cannons may have gone. While it looks like stuff like this has gone, went down here. And then when you go and you play through the Akala Citadel section in Age of Calamity, and you see where all of that is, and you see that it's kind of all where you imagined it was, you realize that the developers really put that same level of love and care into Breath of the Wild story, and they really thought everything through. And when you see all that stuff, 100 years ago in Age of Calamity, and everything's kind of where it's supposed to be and where where you think it would be, like, you realize how much love and care they put into it. It's really, really cool to see. Side note, I do think Age of Calamity is a really great companion game to Breath of the Wild. Just don't go in expecting an actual prequel.
No. It's a Muso and it's a what if story.
It's not even it's hard for me to. I can't call it not canon because parts of it are, but it's hard to explain that without spoiling it. But yeah, it's got from the get go, it makes it very clear what it's about to do. But yeah, everybody go play Breath of the Wild. Do you have anything to wrap us up with Zelda or?
I think one of my favorite things about Breath of the Wild is encountering like just random villagers out in the world, and then all of a sudden they're trying to kill you.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, and they're.
It reminds me of Zelda 2.
I think I said this last episode, but game's underrated. Let's stand by that. That game is underrated.
Oh no, it's just like perplexing.
Yeah, no, I hear you. No, I do like that. I like that a lot. I like the Yiga clan, and Age of Calamity made me like the Yiga clan a little bit more. Like, Age of Calamity made me like all these characters just a little bit more, and that's something that I really appreciate about that game. Oh lordy. Yeah, I think that about does it for Breath of the Wild. Any honorable mentions you want to throw out there real quick?
Like for these
Yeah,
console
yeah, yeah.
generations?
Just any of these console generations.
Oh gosh, I would rather save some of these for a PC
Okay,
episode
yeah, we can definitely.
at some point.
Yeah,
But I mean, shout outs to the whole Mass Effect series, aside from
yeah.
Andromeda,
That's another hole in my gaming library that just is. That's not okay. I've got.
or the OG Bioshock.
And another hole. Like, I have so much, like, I have to catch up on now. And Bioshock and Mass Effect are both within that spectrum.
Yeah, or another one of my top 10 favorite games, Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, I have that downloaded from your profile, and I keep meaning to play it. So yeah,
It's so silly.
yeah. I mean, I'm always down. I love silly games. I don't think I've got any any. I think the only shout out that I'd probably like to give would be like Ocarina of Time, because that probably would have been my N64 game pick had I not, had such a good time with Banjo-Kazooie with my mom.
Yeah,
because that one like really jump started me to like really enjoy a lot of these games, and like that's what really got me into Zelda, which was a huge life changer.
oh
Yeah,
sure.
and then shout outs to Majora's Masks as well for like giving me the first sense of like agency and belonging in a video game too. Like that game is so good.
It's Twin Peaks in Zelda.
It is.
I guess I'll also give a shout out to like the first 4 Mega Man X
Yeah.
games.
Yeah. The first 4 Mega Man X games are great. I mean, I like X5 like for a variety of reasons, but the overall quality of the X series kind of drops off after X5, and that makes it kind of hard to really recommend the second X Legacy Collection that's out on modern platforms right now. It's kind of hard.
only get that if you really enjoy the first one and you want more.
Yeah, I mean, I basically got it just because I wanted X8, because that hasn't been re-released in any other form since. So
X8's
X8
good.
is a good game. It's a good game.
My judgment is that it's a good game. I don't think it's a great game, but I think it's a good
game. If you like Mega Man X, you'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah, and at least at some point we're probably doing a Mega Man X.
I do believe we are, and that'll be on there for sure. But yeah, all right. Well, I think that's going to go ahead and get us covered for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up. Leave some sort of review on any podcast platform that you're listening on. If you're listening on YouTube, tell us what some of your favorite games are that have really affected your life in really positive ways, which is definitely want to keep in the realm of positivity here for sure. And if you want to come hang out with us, definitely join our Discord. We'd love to have you. And I stream quite a few rounds of Smash. If you ever want to play any of that with us, Mario Kart, Smash, any of that nonsense, come on by. We'd love to have you. So anyway, my name has been Cody, and Cass, also thank you so much. As always, hanging out, bearing with me every week. Hopefully we'll be back on schedule next week. Hopefully I'll be feeling better.
We could figure out what our next episode.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. I've got an idea. But we'll talk about it. But all right, y'all have a wonderful night and take care. Bye bye.
Ciao.